I was but a ball of fuzz at the time, so I don't remember much. My earliest memories are of life in the palace. All I know is that I was born in Ikbrash, a village in Yaktel. But I've never bothered to return there. I've lived such a sheltered life, yet convinced myself I understood Tural and its people.
Over the past couple of months since Dawn Trail came out, a criticism I see thrown at it surrounding the main character Wuk Lamat is how ignorant of her people she is. People question how it is possible for the Princess of Tural to have little to no knowledge of her people. From the Hanu Hanu greetings of the Pelu Pelu's ways of doing business, to even the history between the Mamulja and the Shabral, only having very surface level knowledge of them all. Now, right off the bat, I'm gonna let you know that I'm not making this as a Wuk Lamat apologist. Here's a clip of my Dawn Trail journey. You're looking at the rest of the map. Ah, leave me alone! Erenbil is beautiful. I love you, Erenbil. You're the best. I love you. You can do no wrong. You, though! Leave me the fuck alone! Yeah, I don't really like her. I am someone who called her a tumor through my entire run of the MSQ, and even I think people are being a little too unfair to her. So if you want a feel-good Wuk Lamat praising time, you are better off watching Joe Cat's Dawn Trail stream buds, where he will literally draw her doing anything. It's really adorable. With that being said, let's commence. There is one thing people do when it comes to fantasy stories that I really wish they would stop, and that is treating characters in that setting as if they are just like us, and live the same lives as us with the same conveniences. We as modern humans have something that we take for granted, and that is having the knowledge of the world right at our fingertips. For some reason, this gives us the impression that every character in fiction should know everything about everywhere at all times. We are told multiple times that Wuk Lamat has spent her entire life in the city of Tuliyollal, only leaving it once or twice when she was very little, to the point that she barely even remembers the Hanu Hanu festival. She talks about going hunting as if it was a common thing, but the impressions we're given in Dawn Trail show she was only boasting during 6.5, pretending she knew things she didn't. About the Hanu Hanu, there are people who say, well, there are Hanu Hanu in the city. Have they never traditionally greeted anyone ever? And to that I say, why would they? Hell, they even introduced us to a Hanu Hanu in town, and he did a common bow to us. There's something about the continent of Tural that the game sadly doesn't convey convincingly, and that is how big the continent itself is. If you look at the map, we go to places further apart than Limsa and Ulda. Be honest with me, without the internet, would you know what is happening culture-wise 3 states over? Hell, even with the internet, you probably don't know unless you looked it up recently. I have friends from the United States who just assume one knows about X or Y topics as if it was a common knowledge. Hell, I even have friends in the United States who have never had a very common American meal because of the way they live. Isolated at home, eating only what's only readily available from the nearby food chain restaurants. Reminds me of Wuk Lamat, who even goes to the fancy restaurants instead of the taco stand down the street. She even gets called out for this. She's a spoiled brat who gets tired traveling and lives a life of luxury. The city itself is a convergence of cultures from across Tural, so converged that they even gave up their own individual languages for the common tongue to make things easier. I can't stress enough how the city of Tuliyollal is such a mixed bag of cultures, to the point that culture is lost for the sake of convenience. I say this from my own experience. I was born in Mexico. I grew up in Mexico. I live in Mexico. And I can tell you that I relate to Tuliyollal, not just because, oh my god, it's the Mexico America expansion, oh my god! No, that's not the case. I found Wuk Lamat and Tuliyollal situation relatable because where I live, our culture has been all but forgotten. We even reached the point of not bothering translating English words to Spanish. Instead, we just use the English words themselves. Billboards splatter all over the place in English, graffiti done in English. Heck, we don't even call Spider-Man Hombre Araña anymore, we just call him, well, Spider-Man. Most of our traditions lost meaning and are now just spectacle most younger generations don't even know exist, and just treat it as just a little festival. An example of this being Dia de los Muertos. Now it's only seen as, oh, it's a time to get some sugar skulls and decorate the house a little bit. The citizens of Tuliyollal lost their culture and it shows. Why do our traditional greetings in the big city? Who cares about that stuff? We are in the big city. Granted, them not knowing their float was magical was still incredibly stupid because there are Hanu who are aware the float was magical but chose not to say anything and... Well, okay, I'm getting off topic, let's go back to Wuk Lamat. You may be now typing, well, what about education? Wouldn't she be taught about her people? And to that I say, have you met her? I wish I didn't, but I did. This creature claims she loves to learn about cultures and her people, but gets bored at a museum with a single quiz. You think she is the studious one? I bet Sarelja was her tutor and she just ate the books he was trying to give to her. So Sarelja just looks at this and goes, ugh, disgusting, and goes back to the first promise and keeps working on someone who's actually promising. This comes back to the whole, do you, dear viewer, know about other cultures in your town? It will be different for every person, I can tell you that right now. Where I live, there are people from India, Japan, the US, Jewish folk, but just because they live here doesn't mean I know about their culture. I saw Preach going on and on about how his kids are super smart and Wuk Lamat is too stupid for not remembering something she did as a kid. First up, comparing knowledge a kid gets and remembers as a kid versus knowledge you get as a kid and trying to remember it as an adult? Not the same, Preach. Second, not everyone is the same. Stop assuming everyone is a smart person who can keep every single piece of knowledge they acquire for life. I have met people in Final Fantasy XIV who forget events that happened in-game from 2 years ago. How many times have you played the game and gone, oh yeah, I forgot that happened?
This is why we need things pronounced in cutscenes before I say them! Yoshida? Oh,
Erugatin.
Huh? Are you telling me they've been called Rugadins the entire time? Rugadins? Not Rogadins? I've been calling them Femroos?
Everything I know is a lie!
We've been pronouncing it wrong for a decade.
Koji Fox confirmed it a while ago and has long pronounced it like that law.
That might just be Colin being British.
I will not bother to offer a denial. You have the right of it. To be specific, we are come in search of our Far Eastern allies, Yugiri and Gosetsu, whom we hope to assist in their fight.
The Aori Shinobi and the Rugadin Samurai? Then you will be pleased to know that they have both come to Kugani. The Rugadin.
This type of criticism, I know Yoshi P saw and even commented that, oh no, maybe we should have made it so Wuk Lamat knew more about her people. No, fucking no! She knows just as much as she should given her personality and upbringing. It's just people who won't look past the surface level and their own modern experiences that won't give it the time of day to think about it past, I assume she should know, so she should know. How dare she not know something she could Google? Going back to the comment I made of Indian people living in my area, I remember being a kid and asking them about the dot on their forehead, or what it was, or what it meant. I remember that dear lady I called auntie explaining it to me, and yet for the life of me, I can't remember it after all these years. Stop pretending characters should have photographic memory, especially someone who very clearly has a lot of empty space in her head. And yeah, maybe I'm giving them too much credit. I can admit that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Which, granted, people who also create a negative narrative read too much into things to the point of calling characters psychopaths. Maybe it is just badly written. God knows I've said that multiple times to Dawntrail. But I sincerely believe Wuk Lamat's ignorance has merit to it, and people who have access to the world's knowledge at their fingertips and have a high expectations of people's knowledge need to take a step back and stop assuming every character in story should be able to remember every single detail of their world. Regardless, this was a small rant I've been having for a while in my head. I thank you for taking some time to listen to me somehow trying to defend an aspect of a character I don't like. Have a good rest of your day, take care, stay safe, and I'll be talking to you next time. Bye bye everybody.